Welcome to 8 Unedited Minutes presented by the National Speakers Association of Illinois. In this episode, we're discussing how to pave the way to your next paid speaking gig for both new and seasoned speakers. My guest is Laurie Guest. Laurie is a 28-year member of the National Speakers Association. She's a Midwest farmer's daughter from DeKalb, Illinois, and is known for her quick wit and slightly sarcastic sense of humor. Her expertise in the marketplace is customer service. However, today we're talking about how to clear the hurdles that stop speaking leads from converting into paid bookings. Laurie was inducted into NSA Speaker Hall of Fame in 2021 and has spoken to 26 of their 33 chapters. We dive into topics such as getting your first few speaking gigs, how to know when seasoned speakers need to pivot their speaking topics, the most important thing you can do to pave the way to your next paid speaking gig, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Thank you again for doing 8 Unedited Minutes for National Speakers Association of Illinois, Laurie. I appreciate you making the time.
I don't think I've ever said anything in 8 minutes, so let's buckle up, right?
Awesome. We can do this. And because we have 8 minutes, I'd love to jump right in. As far as paving the way to your next speaking gig, you started before we hit record talking about the biggest thing is that there's hurdles there to overcome if you want to get to the next gig, whether you're looking for your first paid gig or you've been doing it for 10 years and you're just wondering where they all went. As far as hurdles go, how did you discover them? What's the story? What are they? How do you define them?
Well, I have actually spoken for 26 of our 33 chapters. And over the 28 years I've been an NSA member, and I started to notice a theme. I would go in with my prepared content. My whole thing was 93 ways to get booked and get paid. And I'm very excited about all the resources I could give the chapter. And every time we opened up to questions, and I mean every time, 100% of the time, when I open up for questions, all of them have a common denominator, and it was presenting a hurdle. It didn't necessarily have that word around it, but it was, I'm having trouble with this. Why can't I achieve that? It's hurdles in front of them. So when this meeting came around and I was invited to speak to our chapter, I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's heard me so often. What could I say that's different? And all of a sudden I thought, what would his speech look like? I've never done this. This is going to be brand new material, which is exciting to me. And I decided I'll just go straight to the questions. That's how this started. I was not even going to have a program. I was going to show up and say, ask. And if I don't have the answer, I'll make it up. Right. And then as I started to mentally prep for that, I'm like, wait, they're going to ask me about hurdles. Why don't we switch this around? And that's what the presentation will be, is perceived hurdles. And what can you do? What have I done? What have my colleagues done to get over those hurdles? So that's where it came from, Mark.
So what is an example of a hurdle for, let's say, we'll go up the chain, but for a newer speaker, what's an example of a hurdle that you see a lot and how do you overcome, how can someone else overcome it?
Great. Biggest hurdle for a new person is, how do I find somebody who wants me? Right? I'm ready to go. I got my one sheet or whatever. I got my website, I got my video, but nobody's calling because nobody knows about me. So that becomes hurdle number one. And the solution to this, we're giving them the cliff notes right now. The solution to that is people cannot buy what they do not know. So you have to figure out a path to be known in whatever your niche is going to be. And if I want to be known to the world, I want everybody to know me. Wow, you've got some big challenges ahead of you. And so as a new speaker, I say, let's start tunneling. Figure out, where do you have expertise? Where do you already have some name recognition? It might be that you were in the Association of Cotton Candy. Well, then the cotton candy people really know you. Let's start there. And so it has to do with narrowing your approach. Instead of trying to appeal to everybody, we're going to tunnel on down. So that's a quick answer to what would I say to a brand new speaker in their hurdle.
How about a more seasoned professional, say 5, maybe 10 plus years under their belts, and they're just running into, where did the gigs go? What can they do?
Yeah. Yeah. What happened to them? Well, then I'd start asking some why questions, which is what we will be doing at the session. For those who would choose to come live to this or have the opportunity to come live, we're going to do some drill down whys. And so a why answer might be, you got to get back to basics. Maybe, Mark, you've been doing this 10 years and you were really successful in year 3 through 7, and all of a sudden things have gotten stale. So now my why questions: is your material no longer relatable? Is it no longer relevant? Do you need a booster shot of something different? Have you completely exhausted your book of business and it's time to pivot? I hate that word, but I used it. Is it time to pivot and go grab something new? Is it, and I find this a lot, you've gotten off track? You've gotten booked enough that you take it for granted and you put the thing out, hey, if you need me, here's where I am. It's sort of like, I'm cool and I know it. And you're not going back to the basics of what does the follow-up look like? Did you do enough good enough job in the sales vetting process? Those types of actions. And a lot of 10-year speakers in that zone have gotten a little complacent possibly. And those are the why questions.
Well, I'm going to use the word too, because I think it's an important one with what you just said. How do you know when to pivot and when to dig your heels in? Because you could go both. Oh, I just need to do more biz dev is different than, okay, I need a new topic. How do you pivot, or better question, how do you know when to pivot?
I think you know when to pivot when three things happen. One, the contacts are not coming in anymore. I used to say the phone doesn't ring, but I don't know about you guys, but my actual landline does not ring anymore. All inquiries come through website and email. So when I say your phone isn't ringing, I mean all forms of inquiry, right? So things have gone quiet on you. That's an indicator something's up. I think a big one is when people are ghosting you. You did the initial exploratory call, and then you're not closing the deals. Something's up. And that's where I probably will spend a lot of my time when we're together, because I think there's some specific things you can do and say to make sure that that dating process moves along the way that it's supposed to. So I think that's the second reason. And the third one is if people are not interested in what you're pitching, like you just, again, I don't want to pick a particular topic because that might hit somebody's hot spot. But again, let's say that my expertise is telling you how to make chocolate chip cookies. And all of a sudden, absolutely nobody's interested in my chocolate chip cookies. What's the deal? Like, is nobody eating chocolate anymore? Is it, why is this not relevant? And I think some of the most successful speakers that we could use as a case study in NSA is they are constantly staying relevant. They don't change their whole brand, but they certainly pivot onto their topic. Two examples that come to mind to me are Scott McCain and Jay Baer. They are two people that I really watch a lot because I envy, in a good way. Envy and respect is a better word. I respect what they do. They don't stay complacent. They tweak, they pivot, they change constantly. And then they can go back through, I'm assuming, go back through their book of business again and be brought back because it went from one topic to a slightly adjacent one.
So how do you think they stay relevant? Because I recognize both those names. Is it as simple as picking new topics, or is there something a little bit more there?
I'm guessing because I've never asked them, but in my experience, when I have done a slight pivot, it's because I'm listening to what my key audience is saying. So, for example, I'm in customer service. Customer service, a lot of people think is 101, like it's anybody can do it type of thing. How do we not know what customer service is, right? And the word customer service got stale a few years ago, and I could feel it getting stale. And then the pandemic hit, and I thought, boy, when we come out of this, I thought we were going to be off for 2 weeks. Didn't know it was 2 years, right? So when we come out of this, customer service is not going to be key in people's minds. They're going to be in survival mode. They're going to need to get their people back up. What's it going to be? And I pivoted to bust out of service fatigue because those who stayed working during COVID were exhausted. And those who were given time off, especially without pay, they also were exhausted because they're not paying their bills. So we're going to have a whole workforce of people who are readjusting to get their energy up to deliver good service. So I did not leave service because that's my bread and butter, but I tweaked it just a little bit. And that title itself is selling like crazy. It isn't even my favorite program, but my clients can grab onto it and go, that's exactly what we need. Right. So there's a quick example. And I think that those other men that I mentioned, my guess would be without asking them, they listen and they're both kind of research-based guys. They're listening and doing their homework. They're probably well read. They really have their pulse on what's going on out there. And I think that being very aware and listening is probably the key to the pivot.
That is awesome. And we have covered so much ground in such a short period of time. When it comes to paving the way to your next paid gig, I'll ask the big question. If you were to say above, at least do this one thing, at least this one thing, what would you tell people to do?
Make sure that at the end of every encounter, whether that be by phone or by email, you need to know where it's at in your pipeline, who takes the next action. So, Mark, if you and I are playing tennis, I hit the ball to you, the ball's on your side of the court. We both know it's on your side of the court. You're going to be the one who takes the next action, right? It's not a one person team game like golf. I hit the ball and it's up to me to hit the next one. It's clear that I'm playing my own ball. This is a tennis match. And if you're my client and we're having a sales call right now, when we get to the end of the call, I need an anchor point. So it sounds like this. So, Mark, I think we have everything we need. What I'm going to do next is send you a 3-tiered proposal, blah, 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 blah. I have just identified that the tennis ball is on my side of the court and I'm the next one to take action. If it's the reverse and it's up to you, then my words are going to be, so Mark, I think I have everything I need. The next step is for your committee to decide if I'm the right match. And I'd love to hear back from you within the week. And then I might even add on, and if I don't, I'm looking for permission to reach out to you. So
Okay.
I'm sort of pulling the ball back to me, but I'd rather leave it on your side if I can. But that's when we take the ghosting risk. Because if you don't contact me, now what do I do? Well, then you're left with that awkwardness of, do I reach out? When do I reach out? I don't want to look too desperate, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, that was an 8-minute answer to your question. I think the best thing people can do is know who's taking the next action, what is the action, and when is it supposed to happen, and don't lose track of that. Or otherwise you have a book of leads, you have a whole list of leads that isn't turning into dollars.
Thank you so much. And if people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
Best place is laurieguest.com, so myname.com, and kind of the same thing on all the media, social media, although I don't spend a lot of time there. I try and spend as much time on the road as I possibly can. I cannot wait to see all my colleagues. I hope we have a great turnout so we can reconnect and fire up for the middle of this fall season we're in. So it'll be an exciting time. If anybody's listened to this video delayed, lots of resources, just reach out and I'm happy to send you those resources at any time. laurieguest.com.
Thank you, Laurie. This has been awesome.
See you soon.
And scene.
Okay. That felt good.